Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Justin.
Oh, there's no one else here, so fuck it. My name is David.
And you're watching episode 103 of DangIT Prodcast. Whee! In this episode, you may notice that there's just only two of us. And that's because, unfortunately, the other guys, due to just like things and stuff, are not in the team. I'm just kidding.
But they're just too busy to entertain you guys. So I guess you have to settle with us. I'm sorry.
The big reason is because they're now in the middle of moving in. So now that they've finally found the place, they are now established there, got their deposit, I think, taken care of. So it's just only a matter of time. So we're just waiting on them, and pretty much they were not able to film today. So it's just David and I.
Does this harken you back to the first days of podcasts when it was just you and Gabe?
Yeah, definitely does. And so it was definitely a very interesting experience. We are coming up on like 2 years now with episode 104 just coming next year.
And we're right back where we started.
Or next year, coming tomorrow or next week. There we go. So it definitely does bring back some memories of how it used to be with just Gabe and I. We used to film at the church's place.
At this location.
The Hershey wall. The Hershey wall.
Yeah, the chocolate wall.
That's what we call it. It's quite edible. Anyway, so yeah, excuse me.
So here we are, back again.
We'll just kind of
fall to pieces.
We'll kind of construct what's been happening as the burp is kind of related to that. So because the guys were not able to film today, I was trying to figure out like what can I do, because I don't want to just end up filming like at the last minute, like, hey guys, no podcast today. And so I had this idea like, well, David and I haven't watched Captain America yet, so maybe we should talk about that after freshly watching it in the new theater that was already built up. And nearby was a Habit Burger Grill.
This episode brought to you by Habit Grill.
It is not, although it was pretty tasty. Pretty good. I'd recommend it. It's not too pricey either.
Yeah, I mean, it was cheap. The food was good. The patty was grilled and seasoned to perfection. The name again is Habit Grill. It's based in Santa Barbara. Nothing but good things. Give us money, Habit.
Make it a habit to start donating to our cause. No.
Anyway, welcome to our Patreon video.
No, that'll come later, actually. In the future when we actually have a house designated for us. So
time, a cast.
So that's pretty much the updated portion of like the podcast. Nothing really has been happening otherwise. And so, I mean, David's still in that middle place between like undergrad and graduate. I graduated. I'm not planning on furthering my studies. I'm working, and that's pretty much been the thing as we wait for the guys to move in. So that's just all updates. Now we just kind of move on to more of the Captain America heavy type of podcast where there will probably be spoilers. So
which odds are 75% of you clicked on this video solely because of the title anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess we might as well get to it. We got through the boring stuff.
It says Captain America exposes his penis.
Chris Evans exposes dick in new Captain America movie.
But Black Panthers though, his
dick. Oh yeah, I had 10 out of 10 would suck.
10 out of 10 would suck with adamantium. All right, strapped on. No, okay, that's enough of that. So this is like definitely spoiler territory. So if you guys still want to watch the movie, then yeah, just go ahead and watch it, or just like ignore this podcast from here on, and you can just like go on and watch the plethora of Fallout videos that we have in store. We finished filming with that, by the way. That's also an update.
If you haven't seen the movie yet, go and watch our adventures through punching through a post-apocalyptic wasteland
featuring Smegdorf, the most beautiful woman in the world. Anyway, so
Captain America
transitioning, yeah.
That point is over. So I guess initial thoughts on Captain America. Do you want to?
Yeah. First? I think it was really good. I think it was better than like the first two. Like Captain America, the first one was like, yeah, it's all right, and the second one was like, it was better than that. And I was like, I really like this one. And then this movie, well, it was pretty much Avengers 2.5,
yeah,
but it was heavily Captain America centered, therefore the title. So. It was like overall, I really enjoyed it. The fight like choreography was like at its peak. We already established that with like Winter Soldier and like so on. And I thought like actually for the first time listening to the plot, I actually got a really good gist of it is comparison to pretty much any other movie I sit down and watch. Because usually like that stuff just like flies over my head. But for this one, I actually could understand it, and I understand like there was a lot of complications going on throughout the plot, and that's how it pushes like the plot forward and what causes our characters to act the way that they are acting in this film. And that's pretty much mine.
All right. So if you're a regular viewer, then this probably sounds very weird coming out of my mouth, but I really enjoyed it, which is especially weird given how I felt about the first two Captain Americas, both of which I slept through in the theater.
I didn't hear this part.
The first one I slept through because I went to the midnight premiere back in high school, and this is like probably my junior or senior of high school when this film came out. It's 12 in the morning. I probably had water polo practice or something that day, and given the time it came out, I was probably also preparing for speech and debate nationals. So I was just conked out by the time I watched it. Even when I tried watching it at home, I slept through it, which I guess is more of an indictment of the film than anything. Same thing with the second one. Went and saw it in theaters. Didn't even see the midnight premiere this time. I was fully awake for it. I don't even have the excuse of me being like a busy college senior or high school senior or whatever. I was like just coming back from college, like freshman, sophomore year or whatever. I just thought I was boring. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. But this one I thought it was great. It was basically Avengers 2.5, more than the Captain America movie. But I thought everything was very well choreographed. The cinematography was great. The fight scenes were phenomenal. And interesting enough, I thought it raised a lot of thought-provoking questions and issues that I'm not saying that you don't usually see like thought-provoking things in superhero movies. We've seen that. But I feel like the issues presented in Civil War are unique from the issues that a lot of other super movies bring up. Apart from that, I guess, long story short, it was good. Fighting was good. It did what I'm sure Batman versus Superman tried to do, but did it infinitely better.
Yikes. But, yeah, I don't think I'll be watching Batman
It's not worth it.
Okay. Shoot, I remember... I kind of like figured this out when watching Gurren Lagann. Is that like the origins of like a story, like where there is like no structure like government. It usually starts off with like just like individual character or a group of people like setting off and like establishing and introducing us to this world where they make changes. But then like when the series goes on long enough, there becomes that government structure that is like implemented into like that into the context of that world, and that is usually what drives the plot forward. And I think that's also I think like Captain America is also showing that as well. Even though that's kind of been there since Winter Soldier, I believe.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of films, like just any like, how should I say? I feel like a lot of like worlds that you create will end up having that kind of structured government that creates a conflict between you know what I mean? Yeah.
Although I feel like Marvel especially really enjoys that specific cliche of just like, the man in fancy suits trying to suppress us. They're taking away our freedoms to act autonomously.
Okay. So, David, are you Captain America or are you Team Captain America or Team Iron Man?
Well, I won't go into like my processes behind figuring this out right now, but I'd probably Team Robert Downey Jr. for me.
I had to agree with that too. Like I understand like the more personal like feelings that like Steve is going through, but I think like for the sake of everyone's security, I think it'd be smarter to go with Iron Man's side.
Yeah, which like quick aside, I thought that was one of the really big issues the movie brought up that at least got me thinking. I don't know if it's just because like this is like the type of thing I'm about to bring up is what I study for a living. But I thought it really brought up this issue of like what are the merits of collective security in like a national security context. Because if you look at it from Tony Stark's side, it's this idea of obviously there needs to be oversight because everybody has different ideas. And if we act on those ideas, then unintended consequences are bound to happen. So they need to be restricted by some sort of bureaucracy or some sort of group that says, no, we can't do that. Let's figure out another way to do it. The consequence of that being you don't really get to save everyone, which is what makes Chris Evans so upset, right? Mm-hmm. This idea that no, collective security is bullshit, because what if someone is really in need and we have to help them? Collective security prevents us from doing that. So I just thought that was interesting. Just me personally being more on the side of like collective security being more beneficial than harmful. I just got to be on Iron Man's side for this one.
Just right.
Just right.
when you side up with Iron Man the same way as Iron Man lined up with Iron Man, just right. But yeah, I really like how they introduced like the motives between like Iron Man and Captain America, and how like they kind of implement like victims into like into the way they're doing this. For example, like Tony Stark, he like was more about like the future of kids. For example, he brought up like in the table, like while they were discussing whether to sign the accord or not, was like one of the kids who passed away because of what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes much deeper than that, right? Like even Black Panther was talking about how, or the Nigerian president was talking about how the building that was destroyed in this confrontation with the Avengers was like this NGO that was helping to bring some sort of like infrastructure to Nigeria, and they destroyed it. So the fact that violence can occur anywhere, or like this organization can just go and break out fights anywhere, impedes like global progress because you're destroying organizational infrastructure in these places.
That's true. I was gonna add something else too. I just think overall that I feel like a few of the characters in the film, I guess, were righteously, but the same way irrationally butthurt.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much every character in this movie, right? They were all righteous in a sense, but it very much was like either just butthurt and unable to just cooperate with one another, or they were like, oh, Captain America said this, so sorry, dude, I can't think for myself. Or, Tony Stark said this, which is the case of Ant-Man and Spider-Man.
I feel that, I forgot what I was going to say again. Do you have anything else to add while I'm just like trying to gather my thoughts again?
So, I guess just to bring it back to Batman versus Superman for a bit. Batman and Superman tried to, I guess, bring up a similar theme. The beginning of Batman versus Superman was all about how Superman created all this destruction in Metropolis and Gotham or whatever. Anyway, like all these people died, all these buildings were toppled, and it killed a bunch of people. And it seemed the entire premise of the movie wanted to revolve around that, but then it just devolved into like this super petty bullshit between Batman and Superman, where like they both have this idea of what justice is, despite the fact that they basically pursue justice using the same means, or they both justify killing some people in a sense, or rather Batman justifies killing people, Superman just full on ignores it, whatever, they're fallen heroes or whatever.
But Batman doesn't even kill people.
He doesn't. Batman versus Superman, apparently.
You gotta kill these people. Like, why don't you do it yourself? Joker's an exception. Technically he killed himself later on.
Which, like, quick Captain America related aside, back to Batman versus Superman. Jesse Eisenberg, I thought, made a lackluster Joker. I mean, he was no Heath Ledger, although he was trying to be Heath Ledger. I thought he was maybe third best Joker.
Third best. I mean, you get that bronze medal though.
Yeah, right after Heath Ledger, Cesar Romero, maybe Jesse Eisenberg
can make some good recoloring of the teeth if you really want to. I did like in Captain America that how progressively things kind of went to the ceiling. Things just hit the ceiling. Things became a little bit more complicated instead of just like, it's just a matter of signing this, signing that. Like, it's simple as that. But no, it starts to build up, and you see how Bucky is like intertwined with all these different conflicts.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like the rate at which conflict progressed was really good. I mean, given that it was a fucking 2.5 hour long movie, the fact that it didn't just devolve into conflict right away was pretty nice. Otherwise, it would have just been trying to manage to fill 2 hours of film. But for me, it felt like most of the movie could have been avoided if, and this is the other thought-provoking question the movie brought up, was if everyone within like the Avengers was prone to like share intelligence. This could have all been solved if Captain America was like, hey, this is what's going on with Bucky. This is the thing. That probably would have solved 98% of the conflict.
But I think like I'm pretty sure like as far as communications, you could have just like called and toned down on the phone. But I think like otherwise it was like just regional isolation that kept like information from like flowing through. And so it's just like we're on our own, Sam. We're on our own, Bucky.
Yeah, but I guess that idea that like shared intelligence couldn't happen just brings up another issue of collective security, and that's like the issue of trust within an organization or trust within a team. And that, in order for collective security to work, the organization has to be bound by a certain ideology, and that was Captain America's standpoint. The idea that the Avengers have this philosophy and we need to adhere to this philosophy. So it's like this struggle between these two ideas, organization versus philosophy, without the other recognizing that both need to come together cohesively in order to create an effective like security organization. But, we realize that rarely happens, or it rarely happens successfully, which I guess that's what I got from it. And I think that's what makes it a really great superhero film in my mind.
What was really interesting is just like seeing Iron Man's like motivation kind of progress, because like the very first time we see him was just like him like at a conference, and after that he kind of just like walks away from it, and then he meets like I believe the mother of the person who
Iron Man indirectly killed.
Yeah, and so he has that just hanging behind his head, and just how that constantly builds up to him actually being angry at Cap, and just like how like forward he is about like going about saving Bucky. I
don't know. Like I'm usually the first to say that we should avoid angst in superhero movies at this point because it's all tired. But this is the one case where a little bit of angst with a character would have been okay, because especially after Age of Ultron, you'd think Tony Stark would have a little bit more internal turmoil going on. Like the fact that not only did he indirectly kill this guy in not really the Czech Republic, but actually the Czech Republic, but not really. Like just the fact that not only did he cause that entire event, but because of that, he had to indirectly kill some other people in this huge conflict that he started. And now he's trying to suffer the consequences while trying to convince himself that he is still doing this for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah. When you actually like tie all the different like Marvel films together, it really just kind of builds this like timeline of like how like characters have built up and their morals have changed or been strengthened. It's definitely interesting. Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as like I guess that aspect of like plot development or like the ideals of like the government and collective security?
I think I got my spiel about that out. Okay. I just want to talk about bootleg Dr. Manhattan.
Oh, we're talking about Vision?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your experience with Vision so far?
Well, Vision just comes out of nowhere in this film, right? Like he's just here, and like I'm a big fan of Watchmen, and I look at this guy and I just think, wow, this guy is literally bootleg Dr. Manhattan without the dangly blue penis, because he's just this synthetic being. I mean, I know Dr. Manhattan isn't quite like entirely synthetic, but just basically this token god character, right? That has a very objective sense of judgment and like a very objective approach to morality and justice and all that jazz. So I'm sure Alan Moore is like brewing up some sort of curse because he's a wizard and all.
I think that it was really weird to see Vision in like more mundane clothing, and how like in like Ultron he was just like he's presented as this like deity character who's like risen up by the powers of like. It was the Tesseract, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's kind of beaming on his forehead. And how like he's a ridiculously like overpowered like superhero who could probably, if he really wanted to, he can like one shot everyone.
AKA Dr. Manhattan.
But then is she called Scarlet Witch? Or is it we could just like refer to her as Wanda?
Yeah, let's just go with Wanda.
But even though Wanda has the power to like overwhelm him, it's like Cap's like only edge as far as like the entire team versus him.
aka the relationship between Dr. Manhattan and the Silk Spectre, except not quite as deep.
Any particular character out of these Avengers, this group of Avengers, like both teams, they want to highlight?
It's mainly just like Wanda and bootleg Dr. Manhattan, because I am convinced that relationship and not necessarily Wanda's character, but that relationship and bootleg Dr. Manhattan in specific were just completely like carbon copied from Alan Moore's characters and their Silk Spectre's and Dr. Manhattan's relationship in Watchmen, because it's still this entire idea of she has the power of control over him. Although in Watchmen, it's more like psychological. The idea that Dr. Manhattan is, I guess, despite being this purely rational, purely objective being, still has some sort of romantic feelings for this character. And in that sense, she has control over him. Whereas Marvel, it's a bit more direct, where she, literally has physical control over him. Although I guess you could say that's a device to insinuate that they also have psychological control over each other.
Mm-hmm. And are we not going to talk about spoilers? How they just literally just dragged in Ant-Man?
Yeah, dude, Ant-Man was the fucking best part of the movie. If you haven't seen Ant-Man yet, fuck you, because it's objectively the best Marvel movie ever.
I have not watched it.
Then fuck you. Oh god, Ant-Man and Spider-Man just like steal whatever scenes they're in.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. He is very much shoehorned into this movie, but it's worth it.
I think it was a good way of introducing Spider-Man, like a bridge version. Oh, by the way, Aunt May though. Aunt May, the AILF, AILF, however you want to pronounce that acronym. If another spoiler, the movie hints at another Spider-Man reboot, and if I don't see an entire 3-movie series where Spider-Man struggles with his own sexuality because of his aunt, then I would be very upset. Like Aunt May, what happened to you? In the Tobey Maguire ones, she was she was like my grandma type of aunt. But then then Civil War comes, and then you get this. Whew.
Oh damn!
It's like, oh, Aunt May, hold on, Peter, I need to talk to you for a second. Ooh.
You've thought about your aunt, during some nights, right?
Right. It's not just me.
Mind if I just?
Mine just in the room? I don't have anywhere else, otherwise she's gonna see it. No. Remember, it's I'm gonna stop you guys there.
Man, almost as sexy as Chris Evans holding that helicopter back in that tight t-shirt.
I know.
With those muscles.
There was maybe good 10 seconds of him just holding it
just
this.
Just him flexing in this tight white t-shirt.
Yeah,
I gotta go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Oh my god. It's just picture-esque Chris Evans.
This god of a man.
I wonder how they actually shot that scene of him just flexing, and how awkward could it have been?
So many boners. So many awkward boners.
Cut! I said cut!
I need some time to think to myself for a second.
Sure, director.
No, Chris, stop. I need a moment. All right. You may continue.
Wait, stop. Okay. Okay. The whole chase scene with Bucky and Black Panther and then Captain America, that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, at this point you got to figure that Marvel just knows their shit when it comes to action sequences. Because everything was just beautifully shot. All the fight scenes are very tight. It never seemed. I guess I could probably point out a couple scenes that seemed like they just went by too quickly. But otherwise, you saw all the action. Everything was very satisfying. All the choreography was very well done.
I feel like in this particular film, I'm not sure if it happened in Winter Soldier or any kind of fight choreography heavy scene in any kind of Marvel film, where you notice impacts punches and kicks. They went a little bit faster, or at least I perceived it a little better than any other shot. I'm not sure if that's like a frame of like different frames per second difference, or maybe it's just like they sped up like the clip just a wee bit for that.
I think it's just like a frame rate issue.
I don't think it's more of an issue. I think it's more like on purpose. Like they want to do something. They want to emphasize the speed, maybe.
But I'm sure it wasn't a case. It wasn't like a 90s case of, we enjoy the fast forward button more than it was just very clever cinematography and just like knowing at what frame rate to film this action sequence.
Like seeing these action sequences like really like inspires me to like somehow implement more fighting sequences into our skits. Like hardly ever, by the way.
We just need people that actually know combat choreography on the team.
Well, we just gotta practice. We just have to have like an idea of like what we want to do and our limits to like what we can do. For example, flips.
Yeah,
all the flips.
I have like the most minuscule amount of experience in stage combat. Not necessarily like, flips or hand-to-hand or anything. Just like the smallest amount of experience in swordplay combat. But that is about it.
Yeah. I'm not sure about swordplay, but I'm pretty sure you can like improvise a lot of like hand-to-hand combat. As long as you use your feet. That's important.
I mean, it's really something you shouldn't or really can't improvise. You have to be so precise with any sort of stage combat just to make sure that A, it looks realistic, and B, you don't actually hurt somebody.
Yeah. That's our problem, is that we're so under like budget as far as like that. We're just like kind of freelancing at this point.
Yeah.
If anything.
So if you know a combat choreographer, or you are yourself a combat choreographer, and you live in non-disclosed location, give us an email, give us a shout out. We'll send you an application.
Anything else about like Captain America? Because I think that's a pretty good gist over like. It's a good like sub level of like. Analysis of this movie. For all the characters it introduced, not to bring it back to Batman versus Superman again, but it did a really good job of introducing these new characters without having to worry too much about where they came from with their origin story. This also kind of serves as an origin story for Black Panther, and like what Black Panther is really nicely summed up in like 2 or 3 sentences, and you get it in those 2 or 3 sentences. You don't feel like you need to know more. It's okay. I mean, you're ready. It does kind of like leave the sense that maybe you want to know more, but it's that vagueness that's good. You want the audience to be leaving with this, okay, I know kind of what Black Panther is. I know a little bit about the history, or why he's fighting at least. But it makes you wonder a bit more without feeling frustrated for not knowing more. So it makes you think and wonder about the character and hope that maybe a story will be explained a bit more rather than frustrated because the focus isn't on Black Panther. Yeah. Same thing with Spider-Man. Like, when they introduce Spider-Man, they don't really go into detail with his origin story because they don't have to. Even if you have the vaguest idea of who Spider-Man is, you can probably give some sort of summary of where he came from so they don't bother with that, which was nice. It was refreshing. And like the casting choice for Spider-Man was really on point too. I thought it was good. They actually made him a teenage kid. I love like the 2 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, of which I will only recognize 2. But it was so hard to buy that he was like this teenager or like just this college freshman or sophomore, whatever. But you really get the vibe that he is just this geeky, nerdy kid who is just trying to figure out what the hell to do with this huge burden of responsibility that's been placed on him, which was the entire premise behind Spider-Man to begin with. Great power, comes great responsibility. Yeah, and he does like summarize that like very well, like in front of Tony. Just kind of give a good summary, like okay, like why is he doing this? And just like the whole recruitment thing was, I mean, let's be honest, like Marvel knows like how to do comedy within action films. Yeah, I mean, I thought for the most part the comedic timing was pretty good. I mean, like Paul Rudd didn't even need to say anything funny, and you just laughed. Yeah, it was amazing. Well, it was actually interesting because like I feel I was thinking that a lot, especially like Avengers. There was like a lot more comedic scenes or like impacts. Yeah, but this one was like a little bit more reserved, but it still wasn't afraid to like put this one out there. Yeah, and it still manages to be a very good, I think, very thought-provoking and very deep movie, despite the fact that it is very action-packed and there is those sense of comedy, but that's fine. They're interwoven perfectly. Mm-hmm. Like
I think, deep or like complex movie needs those moments of brevity in them to make them truly complex and deep movies.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're taking them through a roller coaster that doesn't stop.
Yeah, unlike Batman versus Superman. Shame on you, Zack Snyder. You directed Watchmen, one of my favorite movies. And then what happened? You made the Jesus trilogy, almost. Just Nativity of Superman, The Passion of Superman. What happened?
I did like, throughout the film, aside from Iron Man and like Captain America, how everyone was pretty much cool with each other. They just had to pick a side and had to fight each other at the end.
Yeah, the entire fight scene at the airport was, I don't know.
It was great, but it was also funny in the sense that they weren't like too serious with each other.
We're cool, right? Like after this, we'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, hey, we haven't met. My name's Clint. I don't care.
But yeah, I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Only because there wasn't enough Ant-Man.
What would I give it out of 10? I'm pretty generous. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because there shouldn't be anything that should be defined perfect.
Except for Ant-Man. Ant-Man is objectively perfect in every way. Go watch fucking Ant-Man. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like paradoxical why we have a rating system when we shouldn't build up this idea of perfection.
Yeah, which, I mean, the ratings aside, just take what we said throughout this podcast and, I mean, really just go and see it for yourself to create your own opinion. Just kind of use what we've said as a jumping off point to kind of expect, maybe get you thinking when you watch the film a little bit.
I wasn't really paying too much attention to music and sound in this one. I didn't really feel like there was anything memorable to like really cling on to as far as like the score. I
mean, that's exactly what I think a soundtrack in a movie should be. Something that's not necessarily memorable, but something that adds to whatever else is happening on screen. It's like, Silent Hill. I can't remember the Silent Hill soundtrack, but I know it's effective because the soundtrack for Silent Hill really adds to the atmosphere.
Yeah, I just feel like sometimes like a score can really like cling, like really add on to the moment. In fact, that like it leaves you there. So if you ever like hear that like piece of music ever again,
it brings those images back.
Yeah, and sometimes you just want to hear it by itself too. I think the Ruby volume, which came out recently, does like have a good score. I like the music there, and I would actually just listen to it like outside of the series.
And no, by the way, we're not doing a reaction to it. Because I just, as soon as you said, I'm like, oh shit, there gotta be comments asking for us to do a reaction to it.
Like maybe we can do a discussion about like that. But
yeah, I mean, we'll, I hope you don't mind what I'm about to say, but I promise you, we will talk about Ruby Volume 3. We will not talk about it after we watch a video with you. You can watch it on your own. We'll watch it on our own, and we will talk about it after the fact, because that just seems like the responsible thing to do.
Right. Because even though like Rooster Teeth is not going to be like attacking us, so it's just like place like copyright claims.
Yeah.
Oh, which by the way, I think it's a relatively new thing with the copyright system, but it's set up so like when a third party's like adding a claim to a video that you made that has stuff from theirs, no one gets any kind of ad whatsoever. So it doesn't benefit anyone except for us, who could possibly get the subscribers from that. So it's unfair that way. But that's pretty much it for reactions and stuff like that.
It's just a matter of us not wanting to be douchebags who capitalize on other people's work. Like, not even indirectly, but totally directly.
I mean, like, having discussions like this is totally fine. It's just,
absolutely.
Not like just simply taking stuff in. I'll be honest, because like, I totally forgot about adding this in, but like it definitely gets to me when I read these comments about like, oh fuck you, because that's all I was subscribed for, or like I was never going to subscribe anyway.
Oh well, fuck you too.
And I was just like, man, like at first like I don't really care, but like that stuff like really settles in. But then when you see like the occasional comment that's like actually positive, like, hey, I appreciate you guys like doing these gameplay videos, keep it up. And
we're really happy to see you doing your own thing. Like those are nice. Like you guys are awesome. You guys deserve a little applause. You the real MVPs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's later tonight. Sorry, I was thinking of Chris Evans.
Sorry, I was thinking about Aunt May. It's like, ooh. Okay. Shoot, we already talked about Habit Burger Grill, right? And how it was all right. I did like, just point out, I did like They're chopped up like lettuce and
yes, they're crisp, chopped up lettuce, fit in perfectly with perfectly melted cheese, juicy, sweet, watery tomatoes, fresh grilled mushrooms and onions. Habit Grill.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Habit Burger Grill. Make it a habit. See you on the episode. I'm just kidding. Well, we're not sponsored by Habit Grill. We just it was just in the plaza. Well, as much as a whole bunch of other things.
But you can check the link below. There will be a link to Habit Grill's corporate website where you can browse all sorts of Habit Grill merchandise, such as T-shirts, mugs, sandals, weapon holsters, etc.
Just be careful on which click you link. You might actually click on a very private Instagram page for David's nudist complex.
My what complex?
Your nudist complex.
My nudist complex? It's not a problem. It's just me wanting to revert back to my natural state. Is that so bad?
It's just a phase. It's not a phase, Mom. It's part of my life. It's who I am. Anyway, why don't you accept that?
Those of you who clicked this video initially for the Captain America aspect, you can leave now if you want. I mean, if you want to stick around, that's cool. But we're just gonna fucking talk about how awesome Habit Grill is for a few more minutes.
There's actually other places there too that I really wanted to check out, like the whole hot dog place too.
Oh yeah, there's this gourmet hot dog place. I mean, this entire plaza, it's just so, its existence just baffles me, because the town we live in, at least when I was growing up in it, was just like this small town that was just literally just nothing but houses and a Walmart, basically.
Yeah, those old days that I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, the town has just exploded since then. Now we have this plaza that has this huge movie theater with reclining level seats, juicy, valuable Habit Burger just right there. This gourmet hot dog place, and the plaza that we went to, that was literally 10 minutes away from our homes. We used to have to drive 45 minutes or an hour away to get to,
and that's just a portion of the entire area. There's a whole entire shopping center on the side of it, where there's a whole plethora of parking spaces, as well as what we already had. But it's all cleaned together, and it was it's an interesting construct that's been built around. It's very social oriented. All these different tables, the scenery. You see grass and trees. You even have a fountain that's built in.
It's
and
the
music
place,
in the ambience.
Yeah, it's the place that even if I had access to it in high school, I probably still wouldn't hang around because I'm an antisocial piece of shit. But I digress.
I mean, I would say it's just a perfect place for friends to hang out or to go on a date or something like that, which Dave and I technically did.
No, we don't want to make that official yet. You said we would wait.
I'm sorry, Gabe. I'm cheating on you for David.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
get over it.
That was strange because last time we filmed here was when it was sometime after Valentine's Day. I think it was when Gabe and I saw a Lego movie. Oh, that might be the year before, but yeah, we were talking about that. I'm pretty sure it was because at the time I remember Gabe telling me he was with the guys and on the freeway, and it was all jammed up, and how he was asking for a girl's number, and he did get the number, but that was it.
Nice.
So what does the timer say right there?
We're definitely past 35 minutes. We're 38 minutes.
Oh, okay. Should we just end it here, or?
Yeah, sure. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Mountain View Plaza and Habit Grill. Make a habit out of eating Habit Grill.
We are not sponsored by Habit Grill or the theater or any kind of Mountain View Plaza, anything.
This was episode 103.
Yeah, that was a good conversation. So thank you guys so much for watching episode 103 of DangIT Prodcast. My name is Justin.
I guess I'm David today.
And thanks for watching.
#bye.
#bye.